What's up, guys? Connor Hanlon here for another episode of the Greater Society podcast. And today we have not a recap show, which is what I was considering doing today, a 2022 political recap. But I don't think that's what is best for today. So today we're going to be going over some of the major news that has gone on over the last week since we have last seen each other on the program. Largely, we're going to be talking about one of the most insane stories that has been going on with a Congressman-elect George Santos, a Republican, who has maybe not disclosed a lot of what his resume and life have been about. And we'll dive deeper into that, of course. Then we're going to talk about some of the most heinous political stunts being extended into the Christmas spirit by Governor Greg Abbott of Texas by sending migrants to Kamala Harris's house in D.C. on Christmas Eve. We'll go over that, show some video from that. And then we're going to go over, last but not least, the continuous harassment by libs of TikTok, but specifically an interview on Tucker Carlson's radio show that has been making its rounds on Twitter and on YouTube and various different platforms, which only continue to elevate. And I don't even want to spoil all the stuff that we're going to talk about in that end, but only serve to propagate more and more radicalism from the right and more hate towards the LGBT plus community, and the veil of anonymity has been stripped away from libs of TikTok. And I want to continue to make sure that this person does not get off scot-free, frankly, for the harassment that they have been targeting towards young kids, teachers, etc. So it's important that we go over some of this stuff today. But while we are here, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button. It'll help us get into the algorithm, which is necessary for growth. And if you guys enjoy progressive politics, then this is your home. But first, we're going to talk about Republican Congressman-elect from the state of New York, which, recall, we have lost control of the House, we being Democrats. I am a Democrat. I assume a lot of people watching it either left-leaning independents or Democrats. And losing the House of Representatives by a small number of elected officials is largely stemming from the loss of seats in New York, which some of them from, let's just say, DCCC chairman to middle of the road, northern or upper state New York, upstate New York, not New York City necessarily, but these seats in New York and as well as in California, where these are extremely blue states, but we are losing seats because of the maps, because of taking seats for granted, etc. But one of these seats is George Santos, who is supposedly, and I say supposedly because there is some question around this now, but is a supposedly openly gay Republican congressperson-elect in New York. And you will see as we dive further into this interview that he has done with Tulsi Gabbard, which, of course, I will put my 2 cents in here in a second on her too. But he does an interview with Tulsi where he is pressed about some of the lies, and what he has been caught lying about is, one, that he was married to a woman and divorced as recently as 2019. Now, that doesn't. Let's take a step back and say we all know that does not make someone necessarily not gay, or it doesn't mean we shouldn't take their sexuality, to heart. but it is something that was not disclosed as somebody that was running as an openly gay individual. That is something that anybody would want to know, whether it's people that are, that's something that like is politics 101. If it's undisclosed, there's probably a reason for that. But also because it's kind of diverting from his original saying like, oh, I'm the first openly gay Republican elected to the House of Representatives. Like, it does mean something, right? Like it's not that big of a deal, but it does mean something. This is just scratching the surface. So the next lie, as we will see in the interview that he is called out upon, is lying about his resume, where he talked about working for big banks on Wall Street, working on Wall Street. I believe he says Goldman Sachs or all these big banks, right? And of course, that was a lie too. He did not work for any of them. JP Morgan, I believe, is the other one. He did not work for any of these banks. He lied about his resume to get elected. Now, if you or I lied about what we did, our work experience on our resume, any single one of us, for any single job, whether it's basically McDonald's to working to be the CEO of a big bank, whatever it was, anything in between, we would be fired for lying about that on our with justified cause, frankly. Now, there's one thing to say you stretch the truth, but these are blatant lies because he's never worked in these places. The other lie that he really used in campaigning, and again, this is supposedly from the party that hates identity politics, that, you know, despises all this stuff, was him lying about being Jewish, which I don't know if there's any proof to his claim that you will see in the interview, but he is a confirmed Catholic, which you could also push, you know, religion is kind of this thing where you can be one thing one day and another next, not because of just like willy-nilly changing it, but belief is your belief, right? Your belief system is your belief system. And I think everyone has the right to do that. You know, I was a confirmed Catholic, but I am an agnostic now. But that does not mean that I can say, you know, I am, you know, the first, if, you know, I got elected or something, I'm the first Muslim to be elected to this position. Because, like, that's not something that I've ever practiced. It's not a religion I've ever practiced. His claim is that he was Jewish. Despite not being Jewish, there is not necessarily evidence to support it. This is why I'm saying being ethnically, you know, whether he's Ashkenazi Jew or something like that, that is something that is up for question, I suppose. But his response to being called out for not being Jewish was saying that he was Jew-ish. Like, he is, you know, kind of Jewish, which is the weirdest response that you can possibly have. It'd be one thing if you were just like a regular Joe Schmo and you were just, you know, it's just like a joke that you have, but this is a guy that was running for the United States House of Representatives, utilizing his different pieces of his identity to get elected. So these are consistent lies over and over and over again. None of which, nothing about his resume was true. Nothing about his, you know, campaign basically was real. Now, before we get into the interview that Tulsi Gabbard does, I want to point out, you will see Tulsi Gabbard interviewing George Santos, and might be saying, well, how has that happened? Does Tulsi have her own podcast or something? Maybe, I don't know. But this is not on Tulsi.net or whatever. This is Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, former congressperson, filling in for Tucker McNear Swanson Carlson. The entitled brat himself, Tucker Carlson, having Tulsi Gabbard fill in for him. And now, remember, Tulsi Gabbard was supposedly just so fed up with the Democratic Party that she had to become an independent. But she is definitely, she's definitely not right wing. She's definitely not right wing, but she's filling in for a Fox News host, the most far right one maybe out of all of them. I will give her props for holding Santos's feet to the fire, and I will tell you why I think she does it at the end. But for now, let us dive in, and I want to get in about right here.
Congressman-elect Santos, thank you for joining us today. First question I really want to ask you, now that all of this has been revealed, is what does the word integrity mean to you?
This is an interesting question coming from Tulsi Gabbard, someone that has lied to the American people about her stances on a million different things, including her stance on the LGBTQ plus community. But, yeah, go after him. Go after him, Tulsi.
Well, Tulsi, thank you for having me. To answer your question, integrity is very important. And like I said to the New York Post, embellishing
what does
my
it mean,
was a
though?
mistake.
What does it mean? Because the meaning of the word actually matters in practice.
Of course, it means to carry yourself in an honorable way. And I made a mistake. And I think
he made many mistakes.
Humans are flawed, and we all make mistakes, Tulsi. I think we can all look at ourselves in the mirror and admit that once in our life we made a mistake. I'm having to admit this in national television for the whole country to see, and I have the courage to do so because I believe that in order to move past this and move forward and be an effective member of Congress, I have to face my mistakes, and I'm facing them. The reality is that I remain committed to doing everything I set forward in my campaign. I'm not a fraud. I'm not a fake. I didn't...
Everything about him is quite literally fake. I mean, literally everything that he campaigns on. He's going to talk about at the end here, and this is a long clip, so just stay with me. But at the end through here, he's going to say, I'm talking about inflation and crime and all this stuff, which I'm sure he is because it's just parroting the Republican narrative. But he campaigned on his identity. He campaigned on these experiences. This is what people look for a lot of times in Congress people, in elected officials, saying, what was your experience? What did you do before you ran for office? That's why Trump became, he's a businessman. I might not agree with everything he says, but he's a businessman. So I have to vote for him, right? Obviously, this is not my opinion, but this is what people have said. So if you're saying that you're this big financier, I worked on Wall Street, I worked for, JP Morgan, I worked with all of these different companies, I managed all this stuff, and it's fake, I'm telling you, you would be fired the instant any of these companies found out that you were lying to them.
Materialized from thin air. I worked damn hard to get where I got my entire life. Life wasn't easy. It didn't start off easy. As I've said it many, many times, I come from abject poverty. I made some mistakes.
So that part is also interesting. I didn't set this up before the clip, but the weird part about this, which people have started to dig into, is his funding of his life functionally and his campaign during this period. He had no taxable income for, I believe it was 2020, and then in 2021 somehow makes $700,000. And it's insane, the spike and then drop to nothing. And then people have started to look at and pull his campaign finance reports, and the disbursement of those finance reports is also, let's just say, it doesn't make any sense. The spending doesn't make strategic sense. The fact that he is spending, I think it was 26% of his money on fundraising and 25% on actual voter outreach, and he still won. There's something fishy there.
And I own up to them. And now I want to put this past me so I can deliver for the American people.
The thing is, Congressman-elect, integrity means, yes, carrying yourself with honor, but it means telling the truth, being a person of integrity. And if I were one of those in New York's 3rd District right now that the election is over, and I'm finding out all of these lies that you've told, not just one little lie or one little embellishment, these are blatant lies. My question is, do you have no shame? Do you have no shame in the people who are now you're asking to trust you to go and be their voice for them, their families, and their kids in Washington?
Tulsi, I can say the same thing about the Democrats and the party. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden's been lying to the American people for 40 years. He's the president of the United States. Democrats resoundingly support him. Do they have no shame? I've made this very clear.
This is not about the Democratic Party, though. This is.
I just want to pinpoint this for when we come back at the end about me positing what's going on here. But Tulsi is one of the most rabid dissenters of what Democrats do as somebody that is supposed to be progressive. Again, she's not actually somebody that is progressive. She LARPed as a progressive for a while. Now she's saying that she's an independent, but even her saying this, saying like on Tucker Carlson's show, this is not about the Democrats, then yeah, I mean, he's trying to get off scot-free and it's just not happening.
This is about your relationship, frankly, with the people who've entrusted you to go and fight for them. And I think one of the questions that really probably hits home to a lot of people is are you Jewish? We've got a letter that your campaign sent out earlier this year, which reads as follows. As a proud American Jew, I've been to Israel numerous times for educational, business, and leisurely trips. You said there in that letter that you are, quote, a proud American Jew. How do you explain that?
My heritage is Jewish. I've always identified as Jewish. I was raised a practicing Catholic. I think I've gone through this. Even I've not being raised a practicing Jew. I've always joked with friends and circles, even in the campaign, I'd say, guys, I'm Jewish. Remember, I was raised Catholic. So look.
So this is like what I said in the introduction there. Is there a chance that he has, Jewish heritage or any of this stuff? Sure. But to put that amount of emphasis on it and then to not be clear and to not say like all this stuff leading up before it and then just to send out letters and I'm sure that's a fundraising letter saying, as a proud American Jew, like this stuff matters. I know it's like minor detail, but especially in the wake of all of the anti-Semitism that is going on in this country and like the big names like Kanye perpetuating this stuff, it is something that needs to be called out for people, lying about this or utilizing it, wielding it. And frankly, a lot of the people that are the most hyper vigilant about Israel's influence in the region, not that they shouldn't have sovereignty over the nation, which again, this is something that is much bigger than the topic that we're talking about today, but they are also saying that they want that stuff for absolutely the wrong reasons, not to say that Jewish people should have their own state, but rather to, and I am not making this up, to bring forth, the second coming of Jesus and the rapture and all of that stuff. So just pump the brakes sometimes when you hear some of these folks really, really pressing into the Israel stuff from the far right. When you really dig into what they want, there is some pretty sketchy stuff.
I understand everybody wants to nitpick at me. I'm going to reassure this once and for all. I'm not a facade. I'm not a persona. I have an extensive career that I worked really hard to achieve, and I'm going to deliver from my experience because I remain committed in delivering results for the American people. I campaigned on inflation. I campaigned on crime. I campaigned on education. I campaigned on delivering resolve for the American people. That's what the people of the 3rd Congressional District heard me on and on as I campaigned. Now it's going to be incumbent upon me to deliver on those results, and I look forward to servicing and serving my district. I look forward to serving my people in my district to make sure that they see that this is what
looking for. The results that people are looking for are called into question when you tell blatant lies, not embellishments. And this is, I think, one of the biggest concerns, Congressman-elect, is that you don't really seem to be taking this seriously. You've apologized. You said you've made mistakes, but you've outright lied. A lie is not an embellishment on a resume. You said you worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, but they've said, we've got no record of this guy working for us. You've said you've gone to and graduated from these universities.
Oh, that was the other thing. He hasn't even graduated from college at all, which That's not slighting anybody that hasn't gone to college. But he has said that he went to these universities and got these degrees. It's, oh my God, if you applied to work at any job and lied about this stuff, you'd be fired.
But they've said, well,
we should definitely let this guy be congressperson. I mean, I know it's not so simple. We can't just remove him, but this is insanity.
got no record of that. These are blatant lies, and it calls into question how your constituents and the American people can believe anything that you may say when you are standing on the floor of the House of Representatives, supposedly fighting for them. That's the real issue here.
Well, look, I agree with what you're saying, and as I stated, and I continue, we can debate my resume and how I worked with firms such as Goldman and Citigroup.
Is it debatable, or is it just false?
No,
is
it's
it debatable, or is it just
debatable.
false?
No, it's not false at all. It's debatable. I can sit down and explain to you what you can do in private equity, in capital intro, via servicing limited partners and general partners, and we can.
Again, this is something that is a trick. If he might have been able to work with ancillarily, right? Like do business with, not work for, but work with Citibank, Goldman Sachs, etc. The same way that, like, as an accountant, I've worked with plenty of different clients. I've worked with plenty of big businesses. But it doesn't mean I work for them. I can't use that in my resume to say, hey, I worked for this company. You can talk about it as an experience, saying I worked with this company on this project while I was working here. But you can't just come out and say, oh, I worked for Goldman Sachs, when you really didn't. You worked in private equity. It is so disingenuous, and yeah, well, I'll leave it at that.
We can have this discussion that's going to go way above the American people's head, but that's not what I campaigned on. I campaigned on delivering results for the American people by lowering inflation. I can sit down, and if you want to have that discussion, I'd be glad to, Tulsi, to explain that to you and make sure that we settle the score.
This is not about settling scores, and I think you just kind of highlighted, I think, my concern, the concern that people at home have. You're saying that this discussion will go way above the heads of the American people, basically insulting their intelligence. So not only are you now backtracking on these lies that you've told, but you're saying that you can't explain it in a way that your constituents would actually be able to understand.
I can explain it in a way
that these lies are debatable.
If you give me the time, I can easily explain it for you. As in, when investors are looking for capital, and I'm sitting there doing due diligence on the appetite and what they're looking for.
Clearly, someone didn't do due diligence on him.
GPs and LPs to help them place this capital. This is what I was doing, and that's when I worked extensively with these firms and many other firms at my time as I was vice president of Linkbridge Investors. So this isn't a made-up narrative, but I feel like nobody really wants to sit down and talk about it. Everybody just wants to push me and call me a liar. Look, I embellished my resume.
Santos,
I did.
Congressman-elect Santos, we've given you a lot of time. I think the time that is owed is to the people of New York's 3rd. It's hard to imagine how they could possibly trust your explanations when you're not really even willing to admit the depth of your deception to them. Thank you so much for being here and joining us.
Thank you, Tulsi.
Now, the rare Tulsi W right there. But in chat, I see 2 different comments. Melissa saying rumor, and this kind of leads into what I was going to say about what my thought on this is and the potential of what's going on here. But Melissa says, rumor is that they had Oppo that they were waiting on the New York Times to publish it, which is actually crazier than what is happening. And then that leads into Eric's comment, which is the Democrats' failure in this district. Now, to be fair, I'm taking your word for it in chat. I don't know that Santos' opponent Zimmerman was a Working Families Party aligned candidate. However, if that's the truth and that's why they didn't fund him, again, let's also point out that the state party, and I don't know if you saw this in the beginning, but my critique of the New York State Party is literally that they cost us, New York State Party and the California State Party have cost us control of the House of Representatives for these specific reasons. And the Working Families Party in New York City can run on the same ticket. So you can be a Working Families Party aligned candidate and be a Democrat in New York. It's slightly different than in Pennsylvania, where it is like you're a Working Families Party candidate. That is how Philadelphia has it, where we actually have an elected Working Families Party candidate in Kendra Brooks on the Philadelphia Council. But in New York, you can be a Democrat, but you're a Working Families Party slate candidate. But if that's the case, and that is why they did this, then this is an even more failure on the Democratic Party. I have to take your word for it, but my opinion is, and my guess is, on all of this, is that there is something that is coming out about all this, that the Republicans are going to distance themselves from him. It is not just that he has lied. I'm sure that it is something that is tied to that finance piece. There is something that is probably going to come out. And again, if the Democrats had this and they did not run on it and they did not promote it, they did not share it with the candidate, they did not just bring this everywhere, that is a failure of the party. That is a failure. And if the candidate had it, because again, I don't know who had what when they had it, but the opposition of this candidate should have been gunning. That should have been shotgunning across the airwaves the entirety of this campaign, and we would be one seat closer to a majority. Yes, designated as Dem Working Families Party. I trust you, Eric. I'm not questioning it. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I don't have an experience of the candidate on the other end. I just know that it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. As a progressive Democrat, like I've seen it myself. We've all seen it in dealing with the party sometimes. The party really doesn't like to support certain candidates that are more progressive than the other ones, especially in districts that can be toss-ups. They don't want to support somebody that might win a primary out of nowhere. They might not want to support a progressive candidate that is grassroots supported, that's not bringing in billions of dollars, metaphorically billions of dollars for their other Congress people to take money from and share the fundraising from. But my opinion here is just that the news media, Tucker Carlson, because this is where I'm drawing this connection, is that if Tulsi is holding his feet to the fire, that is through the approval of Tucker Carlson, that is from the approval of Fox News, and frankly, they're going to cut ties like this so publicly, then there is something that is coming that I think will make it so that he either has to resign or that he is just an outcast. But who knows? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene was an outcast when she was elected, talking about Jewish space lasers and promoting QAnon. So was Lauren Boebert, and now they're mainstream Republicans just now gaining power, and they will probably be given committee chair positions. So who knows what is reality at this point? And there's a lot that we're gonna see over the next couple of months as we see these folks being given the reins of the House of Representatives, frankly, which again is ultra important, why we have to pay attention to these seats moving forward. And we can't just cede ground to these nut jobs in hard to win seats. We have to run good candidates, and we have to run good campaigns. We have to make sure that we're funding campaigns, not just funding the elites in these certain areas that bring in tons of money. I don't even remember the guy's name in New York anymore. The DCCC's chairs, like sucking up money from candidates that, it might not have flipped the seat, but it would help. There are these seats that just keep draining funds from other people. But with that, let's just take a pivot over to talk about this story. And that is the story about Texas Governor Greg Abbott continuing his crusade against, and I mean a crusade, against brown people broadly, Hispanic people, Latino people, anything that you want to talk about in this, the actual breakdown of people from these countries, I don't know what they'll end up being, but if there is something that I can't recall something that is more despicable by a governor, other than maybe Chris Christie dancing on TV, then the end. Of course, I will say DeSantis pulling some of this stuff is also despicable and should be included in this, but Greg Abbott sending busloads of migrants, again, and people overlook this, migrants that cross the border via legal means. They are seeking asylum, most of them, or they are seeking status here in the United States via the actual policies of the country, because that's how Greg Abbott gets these people, lures them in. There is still some question about how they're doing this, the legality of it, the legality of them bringing people in with certain promises, what DeSantis was talking about. You recall the mysterious blonde aide that was telling people that you're going to have a job and you're going to have this and you're going to have that, which, yeah, sounds exactly what you would want someone to have, a job, and you would want them to be able to support themselves, but that's besides the point, and they want you to think that these folks are just coming to steal your lake house. Because remember, 2018, because you guys all remember the giant caravan, right? The caravan is still on the loose. The caravan that took over your vacation home, you might not have a regular home. You might not own your own home. But your vacation home, your third and fourth home, oh wait, that might just be the boomers that watch Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, that are getting scared into believing this stuff, not realizing also that immigrants have lower crime rates. Illegal immigrants, legal immigrants, any form of first-generational immigrant, all of them have lower crime rates, and you can pull it up, lower crime rates than natural-born citizens of this country. Not to mention that if we actually, this is I'm gonna my soapbox here, but not to mention that if we actually brought people in, naturalized them, legalized them, they would be more likely to prevent crime, the same crime that the Republicans claim that is so rampant. They would be able to prevent crime by reporting people to the police without the fear of being deported. But these people, Greg Abbott, want to deport, they want to punish, they want to be cruel, because cruelty is the point. Cruelty is the intent for these people, because they are making a political game out of these folks' lives. So let me see if I can pull up the video. The video of these migrants. As you see, I'm going to mute that because it's very loud. But as you see, there are all these migrants being dropped off. And I should say, and I'll let this run. They're being dropped off in front of Kamala Harris's house in Washington, D.C. on Christmas Eve. These folks are not prepared for the temperatures that they had in Washington, D.C. Because remember, on Christmas Eve here in Pennsylvania, it was about 3 degrees. So all these folks being dropped off in front of Kamala Harris's house as a political stunt, not having the proper attire to be outside, not having people there to receive them, give them aid, give them the stuff that they need. Because remember also that the other time that these freaking assholes did this DeSantis and Abbott, they sent them to New York, to Philadelphia, to these major cities. At least the major cities were ready. They were ready to receive them. They gave them aid. Now the mayors were requesting more funds. They were requesting more aid. They were requesting all this stuff to help these people because that is what you should do. El Paso, remember, that actually gets national funds for stuff like this. But no, Greg Abbott wants to play political games, and he wants to risk folks' lives because he does not give a damn about these people. He does not give a damn about the people of Texas. He does not give a damn about anybody except himself and his political ambitions to LARP as somebody that, oh, I'm tough on the border, I'm tough on crime, I'm this, I'm that. He's aligning himself with Ron DeSantis, and the two of them really want to just be the cool new conservatives. But whatever happened to the potential of a compassionate conservative? Whatever happened to that obscure concept of compassionate conservatism? Whatever happened to the extent that Ronald Reagan, even, who anybody that watches this show knows, I am no fan of Ronald Reagan, but he actually naturalized and provided a pathway to citizenship for millions, not hundreds, not thousands, millions of undocumented immigrants in the 80s. He provided that. That created them a pathway to be a citizen or to be naturalized, etc. What happened to that Republican Party, at least that had some semblance of responsibility, of understanding that this country is supposed to be a melting pot, that it's safer for people to feel like they live and are a part of this country. It is safer for them in a work environment to be protected by the laws of the United States, to have the same rights as other citizens. It is safer for everybody. It is better for everybody. And yet, these folks, granted, they're governors. Greg Abbott's a governor. Comprehensive immigration reform is not even something that they propose. Immigration reform in any form is not anything that they are looking towards doing. They all care about, and this includes DeSantis, this includes Abbott, this includes Trump, this includes all these different people. I'm sure that there's Democrats in that list too that are not good on the issue of immigration. But frankly, this is one of the most polarized partisan issues that continues to plague our country, to divide us over the falsehood of the entitled immigrant, which is not a real thing. Immigrants are more likely to start businesses. Entrepreneurship is supposedly, according to some folks, which I agree with, I think that small businesses and entrepreneurship is the backbone of America, and that big corporations should be broken up. But these folks that say that they care about this would never say that. They would never advocate for it, and they never advocate for holding corporations culpable or liable for hiring illegal undocumented immigrants or hiring illegal workers, because that would be too simple. They want to punish the individual rather than create a system that actually functions, because they don't actually care about the issue. I don't ever hear the same folks, Abbott, DeSantis, coming up with legitimate reforms and changes to the system that, other than just deport them all, which again, these folks are not just running across the border. These are not criminals. These are not drug smugglers. These are not, the people that Trump was alluding to, because let's be honest, most overwhelming majority of people that are crossing the border are not criminals. But Trump and his allies and maybe his political enemies now, are only interested in punishing people as best they can for wanting a better life. They will continue to LARP on this issue until some form of reform is done. And frankly, it only happened under a Democrat. I don't see it ever happening under a Republican controlled Congress, and I definitely don't see it under a Republican president. And I wouldn't, let's just say if you had Senator O'Hanlon, I would never even consider passing something with these folks as president because of their intent. I wouldn't even consider what they're doing because they're not operating in good faith. If they actually wanted to create comprehensive immigration reform, they would be coming to help people, not to prove points, to score points on Fox News and OAN. They would actually provide help for people. They would plead towards the federal government and come to work with the Republican Congress people and the Republican senators and say, hey, you should give the Democrats this, which this, like what I'm alluding to is like create some form of pathway to citizenship, create a legitimate way to seek asylum, and protect DACA recipients. Because none of those things are outrageous. None of them are an outrageous claim. And the other thing, in closing here, is that when we look and ignoring all the other forms of undocumented immigrants in this country, because not the stereotypical undocumented immigrant that these people are alluding to and these people are using as political pawns are Hispanic, but ignoring, or Latino, I should say, there are a ton of non-Latino immigrants that are here undocumented, and these are never the folks that get this bigotry targeted at them. These are never, which I'm not saying that they should, but the people that deal with the repercussions are the Latino people that are in this country, whether illegal or legal. They deal with the consequences of this rhetoric. They deal with the bigotry. There is not a compromise that is being willing to have from the Republicans, because Democrats, frankly, I'll put up a stupid wall if we actually had a system to process people, because you know what, frankly, the wall's not going to do anything. Any expert, we've looked at this, we've analyzed this, people have covered it 1,000 times over. Any physical barrier isn't going to be the determining factor for immigration in this country. Investing in technology, investing in this longer term, in process, in system, we would actually be able to alleviate the problem. And I'm sure that there's hundreds of things that I don't even know about that could actually help on the border as a piece of technology that we would probably be willing to give if they came in good faith to discuss and negotiate. But they're never, ever trying to get to the table. With that, let us switch on over to the final piece of today. And that is actually going back to our pal Tucker Carlson's show and looking at his quite bigoted friend, Kaya Reykjavik, or whatever the hell her name is, who is this woman right here, who runs the Libs of TikTok Twitter account, who shares, reposts, all that stuff, the cringe compilations that you may have seen from back in 2014 and 2015 from folks that, yeah, of course, there are people that have cringe takes. There are people that have crazy ideas. Frankly, a lot of the people that are shared in some of this stuff may not be the most mentally stable. And usually don't have any influence, don't have any power, and someone like this sending out and doxing people puts other folks' lives at risk, putting people out of context, like teachers, like let's remember, these folks don't want any form of sexual education in schools, which is a standard thing that happens in schools. Sex education is something that everybody needs. It's part of our biology, and an understanding sex education is how that you can identify somebody crossing your boundaries. It is how you can understand biology. It is how you can understand the processes of puberty that you are going through as you grow up. You can understand. Look, I'm saying this as somebody. I went to a Catholic school. I had sex ed in 2nd grade. I went to a Catholic school until I was in 6th grade. I had sex ed in 2nd grade, in 4th grade, and then I had it when I came to the public school in 6th grade. This is something that is not controversial. It is not supposed to be partisan. We should want people, and kids especially, to know about this stuff so that they can protect themselves, so that they can be informed as individuals, and they can protect and know that when somebody is being hurt, harmed in any way. And it's just natural. Like, knowing how the body works is an important part of biology. And I don't know why all this is so crazy, but folks like libs of TikTok and the folks that perpetuate this stuff and go to the school board meetings and say all this crazy stuff, I don't know if they didn't have sex education when they were a kid, but the stuff that is taught in schools is not even thorough enough. Like, you should want people and kids to be informed. I don't understand it. I get where these folks are coming from, and I don't mean that they're right. I get where they're coming from because they believe that grooming is happening, and they believe that people are indoctrinating their children, which none of that is true. None of it is true. Not a thing of that is true. Teaching kids that there are people that are gay in this world is not grooming. Teaching people that there are people that are transgender or non-binary or any form of any other gender identity or sexual orientation is not indoctrinating people or grooming kids to be a certain way. The same way that teaching kids about people of their sex or of a different the other biological sex, whatever one the kid is born, that is not grooming them to be heterosexual. It is just educating them. It is just teaching them, which is part of life and understanding this. I think we would all be better off if we had more comprehensive sex education in this country. Abstinence-only sex education, of course, is what they want, and they only want it being taught in a heterosexual fashion. The normative in their view. So, this interview is with Tucker Carlson, and we're going to take a listen because libs of TikTok has gone after the person that found out who this person is. Her name is Aya Reykjavik. I don't even know how to say it properly, but she went after this woman, Taylor Lorenz, who is one of the potential journalists that Elon Musk was looking at banning. He didn't get banned, but this is something that they go back and forth on because Kaya here wants to make fun and belittle a journalist because that's normal for them. And she has tried to get people to dox and to attack Taylor. So let us take a listen to Tucker Carlson Today, which is his radio show.
What's going on here? Do you have any theories?
I think there's something so unique about the LGBTQ community has become this cult, and it's so captivating, and it pulls.
Somehow, this LGBTQ plus community that is 2%, 3%, like it's people that actually identify as like, let's say trans are like less than 1% of the country. But it's so encompassing and it's so captivating. Now, you know, people, I say it's probably more than 3% if you include all of the acronym. But even if we're still talking about how all encompassing it is, come on. It's a cult. How is it I would love to interview her. Kaya, you can come on the show, please. Please do.
Pulls people in so strongly, unlike anything we've ever seen, and they brainwash people to join, and they convince them of all of these things, and it's really.
People in the LGBTQ plus community convince you that it is okay to be gay. It is okay to be transgender. In fact, people in the LGBTQ plus community, hear me out here, will tell you that it is okay to be straight. Can you believe that? It's so shocking that people are accepting of one another. As somebody that is probably as heteronormative as can be as a straight, white, cis man, I have never felt under attack. I have never felt pressured. I have never felt anything but empathy for people in the LGBTQ plus community because they've been attacked. I have been, as an ally, I have been welcomed into that community with very open arms. I have been fighting with and for the community because they are not somebody that has. If I have look, this is something that should be said, and I've said it before. I don't know if I said it on the show, but I've said it in person to people that talk about this issue, and I want to say it because of the talk of brainwashing and the talk of, this community is a cult, and I have on accident, and this is the key, misgendered people before. The difference is a level of intent and a level to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I will respect what you ask for, and say, oh, your pronouns are she, her, or they, them. I will say that I will call you them next time or they next time. I didn't mean that. And I've never, ever in my life I have non-binary friends that I have still sometimes, because I knew them as she, and instead of saying they, I knew them as she. And I would say she, and then I would catch myself, and they'd be like, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Because they know that the intent is key. That someone coming after them because they are non-binary is different than somebody mistaking a pronoun or, just saying something that is like, oh, I didn't know any better. A willingness to admit you're wrong, or admit a humility to admit I didn't know, that's okay. Like, this is where these folks are totally out of line, and they don't understand that if you actually just accept people for who they are, it's really not that hard to be an ally. It is really not that much. It's not all encompassing with these people. It's not like Pixar is trying to indoctrinate and groom your kids by releasing Lightyear, a movie that has one gay couple in it. The insanity and the breakdown of all of this happens so fast. If you just look into it for 1 second, it all collapses. But the fear and the otherism, the xenophobia, that's what they want. Yeah, just keep listening.
Really, really hard to get out of it. It's really difficult. And there are studies on this. Like there's been a lot of reporting on this about people, parents who are like, my child is starting to say, that they're non-binary or transgender or whatever, and what do I do? How do I stop this? And it's really, really difficult. It's unlike anything we've ever seen, I think. It's extremely poisonous.
But do you see a spiritual component to any of this?
Yeah,
You don't have to answer that if you don't want.
I don't know.
Well, I do. I don't think this makes sense at all.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And I think they're evil.
So this is important to note here. Evil is a word that folks throw out from the right usually. Evil is a word of moral superiority that is trying to say you are evil, pure evil. There's nothing good about somebody that is evil. That there's an intent, there is malice towards other folks. Evil. You hear people like Tucker use this all the time. The Democrats are evil. You almost rarely would hear a Democrat say that Republicans are evil. This is where it's like the demonization of anyone center left on any issue is acceptable in American mainstream culture and mainstream media. And I'm not saying that folks like Tucker aren't ostracized for bigotry. But largely speaking, these folks can label and slander people and say they're evil. Evil. Moral superiority attached in all. Malice. They're coming for your kids. That's what they said. In Bucks County here, in the Central Bucks School District, at the polling places, people that would sit and talk with me because they didn't know what party I am. Even though I was, volunteering for the Democrats, they didn't realize it at first. They would sit and talk with me because I might look a certain way, might act a certain way. They would say all this stuff, and then I see their sign that says, they hurt your kids, they put masks on them, they don't want all this stuff, right? They harmed your kids, meaning Democrats. That's what these folks are. And on it says they are evil. The moral implications of it and the hits over and over and over on that metaphorical and rhetorical drum permeate throughout society. And that's how you don't get Democrats saying that Republicans are evil. You don't get Democrats or even progressives saying this stuff with a moral superiority and that they're evil. I think that Republican policies are bad. And I could talk to you about the policies, go head to head on the policies. I mean, we could talk about the stuff like these interviews and these people like Lips of TikTok that contribute to the mental health struggles that lead to, literally have been tied to mass shootings. Targeted mass shootings, like the Club Q shooting that happened just a few weeks ago. But there's nothing that has been done to hold these people to account.
And sometimes we try to break it down a lot, and we discuss like why this is happening, what's happening, and whatever. And I think sometimes the simplest answer is like they're just evil. They're bad people. They're just evil people, and they want to groom kids.
Boom. That is what I wanted to get to from them. What I want to know, I would love to ask her or Tucker Carlson for this matter, and he's going to say they're recruiting. That's what he says in this. What is the intent What is the driving force? What is the reason? Why do they think that these folks meaning the entirety of the left, including myself on this, even as a straight man, just by supporting people that are maybe gay or transgender, that we are grooming? And what are we grooming kids to do? And why are we doing this? What is the reason? Do we just need new recruits? We need new soldiers in the gay army? Is that what it is? Like, genuinely, what is the reason that these folks are saying this? There is no actual answer to it other than they think they have the moral superiority and it is sexual deviancy or whatever it is on their part. This is where the religiosity plays into it. And again, this is where it's like you have a right to practice any religion that you like, but when you begin to enforce your religion on other folks, that is where you cross the line on the First Amendment. You do not have a right to enforce your religion upon other people. So if you're, again, I was raised Catholic. Not that the Catholic Church was or is innocent. Let's also remember that. But most Catholics don't necessarily agree with gay marriage, despite the Pope actually saying it's okay. Because Pope Francis is based. But if you extrapolate it and say, well, as long as, this is, and I can say this from my own personal experience, because even as a young kid, I never had anything wrong with gay couples marrying or being together because they couldn't marry when I was a kid. But because all you have to do is say, it doesn't affect me. It didn't affect me. Now, to be fair, I'm much more vehement about protecting the civil rights of people now than I was as a kid. But even as a kid, a kid that wanted to be a priest, frankly, all you have to do is just dig and have a little bit of empathy and say, well, that's their life. They should be able to do that. And then there's obviously more progressive forms of religion, which is also important to note because these extremists don't actually... This is something we don't talk about enough. The extreme right wing of evangelicals, of Catholics, of different, of the far right Muslims, of the far right Jews in the world, they're a small minority of religious people. The average Muslim, the average Christian, the average Jew, the average Hindu is not a rabid right-wing bigot. That's important to note. Like, I don't know why we don't talk about this enough. I talk about this sometimes when we talk about when people talk about, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about, like, they want to get rid of Christianity in America. The overwhelming majority of black voters that vote for Democrats, because they say the Democrats want to get rid of Christianity, the overwhelming population of black voters that overwhelmingly vote for Democrats are Christian or are Muslim. There is way more Christian black voters than there are atheist black voters. And the overwhelming majority of them vote for Democrats. So how does it possibly come to fruition that Democrats want to get rid of religion? Again, as somebody that is agnostic today, I have no dog in the fight other than saying that the government should not be enforcing anyone's religion upon somebody else. That is quite literally the First Amendment and freedom of speech. Now, as Melissa has alluded to in the chat, the building. Oh, sorry, very loud. The woman that you saw on Tucker Carlson was also somewhere else early in 2021, and that is storming the Capitol. in 2021. So, despite the anonymity of this person for so long, the journalist Taylor Lorenz, who found out who this was, is doing good work because you don't know. Maybe there's criminal charges against this person that is so scared of the woke mob coming for her, while she participated in a literal mob storming the Capitol trying to assassinate the vice president. But that hypocrisy would be lost upon most of these folks that storm the Capitol because they don't actually give a damn about law and order. They don't give a damn about this country beyond their own interests. And everybody that is fighting the good fight to make sure that, everybody has access to the American dream, and everyone might have access to healthcare. Everybody would have food, shelter, water. Nah, you guys are loser socialists, and you'll never understand the real America that is just, we just want to go storm the Capitol and hang the vice president. Like, the disconnect there. The fact is that the people that stormed the Capitol are are traitors. They committed treason, in my opinion. Maybe not in the legal definition. Some of them quite literally did. Some of them are being tried for treason, and some of them are being tried for conspiracy against the government. But if you dare say that we deserve better as a country, if you dare say that the average American deserves a good life, then you are just a radical leftist in the woke mob, and Elon's gonna come get you and ban you off of Twitter. But with all of that being said, I know that this is a lot of far-right stuff right now and counteracting some of it, but important, and it's important for many reasons, but it's important right now, especially because on Twitter, it was known in the Twitter leaks, remember the Twitter files that are, super bombshells, that it came out that Libs of TikTok is actually a protected account that can't be banned from Twitter. So, this bigot is protected by the higher-ups in Twitter, even before Elon Musk took it over, but especially now. Because Elon Musk is, I would like to pull this up before we call it quits for the day. Here it is. So Elon shares this tweet, and I'll make it bigger for everyone. And if you're just listening, it is a picture of a guy with 5 shots, a mask, Black Lives Matter, CNN on his arm, a Google tattoo on his arm, Planned Parenthood on his chest, a hammer and sickle on his stomach, a feminist icon with a fist on it. I don't even know what that is. Can't really tell. Fox News on his arm. The yin and yang on his leg. I don't know this symbol. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and what is that, Tumblr on his leg. A pride flag with the star and moon of Islam. And it says, "They brainwashed you," pointing towards a guy with an American flag. And it's the Chad meme, him saying, "Really?" And this is the owner of Twitter tweeting this out, also with Twitter being on the guy's leg, saying, like, quite literally talking about brainwashing, but he owns the platform. And let's be honest, and this is not an original thought here, but and I am curious if anybody in mainstream media is covering this, but if this flag here had a Star of David instead of this symbol for Islam, would it be reported differently given the incitement to violence against Jews in this country since, Kanye's dining with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West and all that stuff? It would quite literally be, this is one symbol away from being a very white nationalist-y meme, a Nazi-ish meme, one might say. But Elon Musk doing what he does, he's going to protect the interests of the far right, because the far right is what keeps him in power. So with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're not already subscribed, hit the thumbs up. If you like this program and you want to see more of it, you can follow me on Twitter. Believe it or not, Elon has not banned me. I'm not popular enough to be banned, but at Con O'Hanlon on Twitter. You could follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Greater Society Media. And you can listen to the program wherever you find your podcast. Greater Society Media, Greater Society Podcast. You can definitely find it that way. For as little as $5 a month, you can support the show at patreon.com/Greater Society Media. And last but not least, if you want to join the Discord server, link will be in the description box below this video or in the audio version of this program. You can join the Discord server and let us know your hot takes. But until next time, everybody, stay safe. Happy holidays. Whatever holidays you are celebrating. And Happy New Year. And I will see you all in 2023. Remember that in 2023, there are major local elections, at least here in Pennsylvania. So don't sleep on it. Get prepared. Be ready. And we'll get right to work. So until next time, stay safe. Peace.